also be clear. The future is not just happening. The future is built by us.
I wanted to ask when you all think we're going to move from this form factor to something that's on your face glasses and when computing's all on the edge.
All right, 50 seconds. Who wants to answer quickly?
I think it will go, it will, first of all, it will definitely happen. I was talking about 6G earlier, which is around 2030. I would say that by then, definitely the smartphone as we know it today will not anymore be the usual kind of the most common interface.
Wow.
Many of these things will be built directly into our bodies.
So this is Pekka Lundmark, who became president and CEO of Nokia in 2020. And he recently appeared in one of WEF's Blue Rooms there, where he told an audience member that he believes by the rollout of 6G, which they apparently plan to be doing around 2030, the smartphones people are walking around with in their hands right now will be obsolete, and these devices will instead be built directly into people's bodies. And before I make the actual point that I came on here to make, can I just say, I really wish that all of these people would stop acting like this is just the next logical step for this technology. What other technology is that the next logical step ever? It's not like they came out with a microwave oven and then the next logical step was put it directly in your mouth so it could cook the food while you eat it. Or, wow, bicycles are really great. Get places really fast. Next logical step, can I attach that to my ass? Just right to me all the time? All the time. I want the bicycle to be part of my ass so that I don't have to ever be separate from it. I want it to just be right up in there. This is not the next logical step is put it in your body. I feel like that's silly. The way that they talk about this, like we're all just supposed to know that and accept that and think that that's normal to do. It's if you really just step outside of it for a second as if you were, an alien from outer space or something. In one of the comic books that passes as a History Channel show these days,
We became human.
and you saw that, you would be thinking, that's a really bad move. Maybe you should take a step back and tone down the hubris a few thousand notches and maybe consider that there's some ramifications there that you might not seem to get.
Many of these things will be built directly into our bodies.
That dude's face after he answers the question. Wow to that. But look at this lady following it up real quick.
And one of the important statements I think made at our most recent developers conference is that we believe that one of the big advantages of augmented reality is actually solving problems here on Earth, and it will be things like having glasses and being able to translate as you speak with glasses, and those are very close.
Holograms will be.
She's like, dude, you're not supposed to go straight to telling them they're putting it in the brain. We got to put it on their face first. They have to wear it on their body and get used to that first. You're skipping a whole step here in the plan. What the hell?
Holograms will be very, very high quality in the era of 6G. I've already seen 5G-based hologram demonstrations. They already work, but then with the next generation technology, we could be having this meeting so that in reality we would be sitting in different parts of the world.
And then he's just like, no, we're just going straight to holograms. It's going to be like Star Wars, and you're going to put things in the brain.
All right, well, I've enjoyed seeing you for the last time I'll ever see you in person. I look forward to seeing you at the next Davos. Thank you very much to our amazing panel.
And I know everybody knows my opinion on this. I've made it pretty clear. And hey, if other people think this is super cool and they just cannot wait to do this, that's really everyone else's body, their choice. I am your body, your choice. I actually do believe in that. If those people want to make that decision for themselves, I am not in any position to tell them not to. But I feel like I at least have to bring up a point about this because I don't think these transhumanists have really thought through, okay, what happens when they become obsolete? Because they're sitting around talking about how we're all going to become obsolete, the people like me who don't want to put a smartphone into my brain. But the reason I don't want to put a smartphone into my body is the same reason I don't want to do a lot of things giant corporations tell me to do. I don't trust them. And to trust them with something that's to that level, I mean, we've already been told over and over about these phones, how they're tracking us, how they're tracing on us, how they're spying on us, how we're being manipulated by the algorithms and technology that these phones employ with increasing efficiency. But somehow, at some level, we're supposed to just put all that to the side, just sweep that on over to the side there, step over that giant mountain of bullshit, essentially, and then give up all autonomy altogether and say, no, I think this will go well. I think this will go well. You sit down at your computer, if you have Windows on your PC, and you know it doesn't go well. You know that you can't keep your old version of Windows. You have to just keep upgrading and upgrading, and then there's all the glitches and the blue screens of death. Hey, let's put that whole mess inside the body, right? Why would anybody... I have a pretty strange imagination. I think probably most people would say that I can go many, many places within the realms of my mind. One place I have a very hard time getting to is how are people actually going to put a 6G emitting smartphone in their brain, and society is going to just continue to function with that. It's barely functioning now with people having these things in their hands. But that's not even really the bigger thing, I think, is that we're going to continue to pretend like non-ionizing radiation doesn't exist, or if it does, it's not anything we need to talk about, think about, learn about, be concerned with. We're going to continue to pretend like our entire body isn't run on electrical signals, though. That doesn't make sense to me. So we're going to have a 6G device in the body or in the brain or whatever it is. And that's just going to be fine, because our entire body is not made up of atoms that have electrical fields, and every single process in our bodies is not run on electrical signals. We're going to continue to pretend like that's not the case, even though it's basic knowledge that we have known for many, 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 many decades. I don't understand that. I cannot wrap my mind around that unless we're just going to pretend like that's not the case. And I don't know how everyone's going to be able to do that. I just can't see this actually working out. I don't think the body itself was meant for that. And I don't think our society is ready for anything even remotely close to that. All of the things, they're just too many. I could go on all day. But they just keep prodding us with this. And it's been going on for years now, that they just keep talking about how they're going to implant mobile phones in our heads, when the phone meets the body, and how your phone's going to read your mind, and when communications technology is going to be implanted in everybody.
Many people now have smartphones and watches for things like communications, daily planning, or even monitoring their health. This quickly growing technology has also brought up the question of how long before we have smart devices implanted within our bodies. We're still quite a ways away from this being an off-the-shelf option for shoppers, but scientists have been exploring this topic for a myriad of different applications.
And they just try to make it sound so cool. With no downsides. There's no downsides here. It's just going to be so awesome when that's happening. Even Elon Musk in his Neuralink presentation was making jokes about updates to brain implants.
It's basically Bluetooth to your phone. Because we'll have to watch the App Store updates for that one. Make sure we don't have a driver issue. Updating.
And openly admitting to the people who came to watch the presentation that it would be very unethical to put ads in your brain.
There's no advertising.
I mean, Jesus. I mean, you'd have really no escape. We cannot do that. That would be an ethical barrier.
Well, at least he thinks that, or claims to, but do you really think all these other corporations think that? I mean, these are corporations who have fought for things like putting electric billboards in the sky. Okay? These are the same corporations that have plundered the earth of resources, desecrated it, turned many of our rivers into toxic wastelands. I mean, but it'll be fine when it's inside you. Don't worry, you're going to be covered, right? Well, this is an article that came out earlier this year. And this is what I mean by, I don't even have to list all the reasons, because they come out on their own. What happens to these transhumanists when they become obsolete. Because that'll be a pay-for-play system if one has ever been designed, ever. That one will be it. And it'll be a pretty serious one too, since it's in your body. If you don't like it, what are you going to do? You would have to pay to get it removed if you haven't already damaged something that's not fixable once it's removed. Things like brain tissue, once you put something in the brain, you have altered that tissue. It is not, you can't change it back. It's not Play-Doh. The brain is not Play-Doh. I feel like I shouldn't have to say that to people, but it's not Play-Doh. It doesn't magically change back. It's not a transformer. I just want to read this article to you. And I don't want to read the whole thing because it's actually extremely long. But I think everyone should consider this, because this is the future that they're selling us. This is the other side of it that they don't like to talk about when they're too busy talking about, ooh, the mobile phone in the future is going to be so cool when it's jammed in your brain and you can't take it out. Super. And talk about how extreme and awesome it's going to be and try to act like you're going to be Neo in the Matrix. When in reality, what's going to happen is probably going to be more close to something like these people here. So this came out of the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers. And it's an investigative journalist piece they did after users of a bionic retinal implant. Their implant became obsolete after the company that made it went bankrupt. Barbara Campbell was walking through New York City subway station during rush hour when her world abruptly went dark. For 4 years, Campbell had been using a high-tech implant in her left eye that gave her a crude kind of bionic vision, partially compensating for a genetic disease that had rendered her completely blind in her 30s. I remember exactly where I was. I was switching from the 6 train to the F train. I was about to go down the stairs, and all of a sudden I heard a little beep, beep, beep sound. It wasn't her phone battery running out. It was her Argus 2 retinal implant system powering down, and the patches of light and dark that she'd been able to see with the implant's help vanished. And this is something that she had to have surgically implanted into her retina. She's probably thanking God it wasn't her brain, but it's still a defunct system that's now in her retina and doesn't work. And she's in a place like a subway station where I think sight is probably pretty important, or you could die. This bionic eye needs a retinal implant that requires a 4-hour-long surgical procedure under general anesthesia, where they implant the device, which contains an antenna that picks up signals from a video camera that's placed on the glasses that the patient wears. And it looks like this. It says it's like watching TV on a screen with 60 pixels, but it's enough information to allow people to move around without aid. Unless, like this woman, you're walking down into a subway station and all of a sudden you hear a beep, beep, beep noise and you can't see anymore because your implant just broke inside your body. And it's not just her. This is happening with other people that are having issues with these implants. This guy, Bylan, became kind of a spokesman. It says, because he ended up getting this implant in both of his eyes. So he had an Argus 1 in one eye and an Argus 2, which is the second version of the implant, 11 years later, and he kind of became a spokesman for this company. Says yet in 2020, he had to find out secondhand that the company abandoned the technology and was on the verge of going bankrupt. So they didn't even tell the guy who had it in both of his eyes, who was basically like their default spokesperson. He didn't even get to know, right? And he says, as long as nothing goes wrong, I'm fine. But if something goes wrong with it, I'm screwed because there's no way of getting it fixed now. And this is another guy, Russ Dewar, second sight patient. It's a fantastic technology and a lousy company. And he just got it in his eye in 2019. So he got one put in there right before everything hit the fan. And it says he was thrilled to learn in 2020 that he was going to be able to get upgrades that might improve his vision further. He heard troubling rumors about the company, so he called his vision rehab therapist. She said, well, funny you should call. We all just got laid off. And by the way, you're not getting your upgrades. So that's a really nice way to find that out, isn't it? And so there are over 350 people now who have this implanted into their eyeball in this world. And this company doesn't exist anymore. It went out of business. And they discontinued this implant and nearly went out of business in 2020. And it says a public offering in June 2021 raised $57.5 million. They were able to raise $57.5 million. But guess what? In today's day and age, that's like they could barely afford office furniture or whatever with the way people run some of these businesses. So that $57.5 million was just not enough. And that's the thing. You could get one of these things put into your body by $1 billion company or a multi-billion-dollar company. But does that mean you can rely on that company and they're just always going to be there and they're not going to have some corrupt person running it who screws everything up, or some accounting person who doesn't know how to account for the finances in the proper way, or what, for whatever reason, right? And the thing they talk about later in this whole long article about the history of this company, everything, these implants, the Argus 2 was a $150,000 implant. In fact, getting the whole thing where you get it put in, you got the surgery, the device, and the rehabilitation needed to use it properly is $500,000 is how much this costs. And it says 80% of it is covered by insurance, but still, that person basically spent $100,000 for something now that if it doesn't break, they're lucky. If it does break, they're completely screwed. And that's being in a horrible position where you're blind and you are being promised something approximating sight, which I can only imagine would be really tempting and very hard to turn down. It's not really the same as people just really like to talk on their phone a lot and they really like to check Facebook a lot, so let's just put that in the brain. That's a little different. But it happened to these people, you know, and this is awful. This is really awful. I cannot imagine what it would be like to be blind and being aided by something I had to go through a painful surgery to have put into my head and spend all this money on, and be walking into a subway trusting that company and trusting that technology is going to work. And then if it doesn't, I might accidentally walk off the subway platform and get hit by a freaking train. That's crazy. And it even goes on to say that this guy, a senior fellow in vision science named Aries Arditi, was a principal investigator for the Argus 2 clinical trials. And he said he did a research study that included all the US participants and showed, quote, weakness with the device's vision quality. And he says Second Sight wouldn't let him publish or present the results, because that's a lot of how science works on a corporate level these days. And the company says it disagreed with his analysis and so discouraged him from publishing it. Which, by the way, is not science, just for the record.
Two statements concerning this chair. First, I know it will hold me up. Second, well, I believe it will hold me up. Which statement is correct? The first. I know that chair will hold me up because it's a good, strong chair. We wouldn't have it here in the laboratory if it weren't, but I don't believe it. Because as God uses the word believe, you can't believe in a chair standing up. Now I'm believing in the chair. I'm trusting myself to it.